Issue 2, Scotland triumphant.
I want to break free. I want to break free. I want to break free from these ties to say our goodbyes that we don't need. I have to break free, to break free, to break.
Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. Never gonna run and desert you. Never gonna make you cry.
Please release me. Let me go.
Stay united or break free. 1 week to go before Scotland's September 18th referendum on whether to remain part of the United Kingdom or become an independent nation. The Scottish media are turning to the lighter side. That video was a mashup of clips and words humorizing both sides' views. The Scottish National Party leader, Alex Salmond, argues that Scotland will be better off as an independent country with its future linked closely to the EU, the European Union, rather than to the UK, the United Kingdom, as they are now. Pro-union Alistair Darling, leader of the Better Together campaign, says Scotland is better off staying in the 307-year-old United Kingdom. The United Kingdom was created in 1707 to bring together Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and England. The English make up an overwhelming 85% of the UK's population, with the Welsh, Scots, and Northern Irish as minorities. Polls show pro-independence forces with a slight lead in a race that will go down to the wire. Both sides claim economic benefits. Salmon says Scottish per capita income will jump $1,600 after independence. On the other hand, Darling claims staying in the UK benefits Scots by $2,250 per person due to regular transfer payments from England. So, if they split, Scots lose $2,250. But Salmon counters that North Sea oil revenue will more than offset any loss of funds from Mother England. Scottish independence fever is seen as a reaction to severe job loss that began when Margaret Thatcher was Prime Minister and economic trends that have made London a global city, while Scotland languished. Former Prime Minister Gordon Brown, himself a Scot, says this in a New York Times op-ed, quote, Scotland has been transformed from one of the workshops of the world to a service economy. At one point, Scotland's shipyards produced a fifth of the world's ships, and its manufacturing and mining sector employed more than 40% of Scottish workers. It now employs just 8%. Its real quarrel should be with globalization rather than England, unquote. Question, who has the momentum, the pro-union side or the pro-independent side? Tom Rogan.
I think the pro-independence side has momentum in the sense that the undecided polling data shows that that's increasing, and they've had, increasing publicity, increasing excitement, but on the same parchment, if you will, the pro-union side still leads in the polls, and I still think that they will be the eventual winner of this race when it comes to September 18th.
So no shift?
No shift, I don't think. I don't think so, but it's tightening.
Except the pro-independence side wins even if they lose, because they're forcing concessions from London, where they will have greater independence, but within the
and I think
umbrella.
that is true to some degree. They've already won to some degree.
Right. This is an argument between the heart and the head. The heart, brave heart, the Scottish nationalism. We want our own country. We want to be with our own kind. We want to create something new. It's like the colonial spirit in the United States when we broke. But the head, this is the arguments the English are using. It's what you're going to lose money. The Bank of England, you lose the pound and all this. They're appealing to simply basic economics. And around the world, I think the heart is starting to win, as in Spain with Catalonia.
Great Britain encompasses Scotland today, but if Scotland breaks away, then you'll have England. Is that going to affect the status of England in the international organizations, starting with the UN? Will they continue to have a seat at the UN? Well,
Who knows? Who, you,
Well, it's the seat
Security
of the,
Council?
That's the
Security
Security
Council?
Council. The issue is in the
I'm
Security
talking
Council.
about the permanent Security
yeah,
Council.
right. I think
what happens there? What happens in the EU? I mean, is England then going to be a much...
EU's got a vote. England's got a vote coming up on the EU in 2017 already scheduled.
Well, you've got to stop thinking of England, and you've got to think of England in contradistinction to Great Britain, which is a bigger entity.
That's what I'm saying. It's going to be England if the Scots leave, okay?
Correct.
Plus Wales.
And it will lose some of its prominence in the
I
world.
think
Also, in their position in world bodies down the line, 10 or 25
Their
years from
economy
now.
will be shrunk also.
What?
Their economy and population will both shrink.
Yeah, but
Well, I'm thinking of their
85%
world
of the
standing and the way we
Right.
conceive of their presence,
Yeah.
even as our allies.
Yeah, but 85% of the population is in England, and you know, I think Scotland, if they do go the independence route, they will not have the ability to issue debt, and they will then risk becoming, you know, another Greece or a Spain within the EU if they're even admitted into the EU, because will Germany want to drag along another deadbeat nation? So I think the economic questions are real, but Pat makes the right point.
Well,
There's a lot of emotion behind this vote.
Scotland
300 years of emotion, actually.
Scotland accounts for 10% of Great Britain's GDP, England's GDP.
Right.
So that's pretty significant if they do
It is
break off.
significant, but on the other hand, there is, I think, a very popular emotional outburst at this stage of the game, which suggests to me that they're going to approve withdrawing. It's not going to be an overwhelming thing, but I think in the end,
undecided vote would seem to point to people who are thinking of, well, maybe we should stay, but let's take a chance, let's take a risk. I think it toward the end, doesn't it move toward folks who really want to boldly move out?
Well,
What's going to happen? What's going to happen to the Duke of Edinburgh? He probably needs to change his title, won't he? If Edinburgh is no longer part of the United Kingdom, he can't be the Duke, can
He's
he?
about
No, they
95
would
years old
they would
anyhow, isn't he?
retire.
95, he still can hit a golf ball very well. He goes to Scotland and hit the golf ball. Did you know that?
Well,
He's
Balmoral.
in great shape.
Balmoral, there you are.
He's a testament that the British royal family still has some good blood in the genes. But he, ultimately, with the United Kingdom, the real issue is that Scotland's economy has long been suffering. It hasn't enacted the kind of reforms that you've seen, you know, in England and even Wales to some degree with post-Thatcher. And ultimately, you know, with Scotland coming out of the United Kingdom, it's going to be very, very difficult for the government to try and provide the level of services that they are at the moment without English subsidies. So the economic, as Pat says, and I think as the consensus is saying here, it is of the heart, but it is not of the head.
right.
200 Scotch-Irish Americans met last week in a family reunion in Rhode Island. I send them my greetings, and let me also say that it was a blast. Exit question: what will happen next week? Will Scotland choose independence, or will it remain part of the United Kingdom? Pat Buchanan, quickly.
The heart says yes, the head says no.
Quickly.
They may, but I think they'll stick together.
Quickly.
Part of the UK.
It's part of the UK. They will not leave.
They'll not leave. Issue 3, immigration stall.
1 year ago this month, senators of both parties, with support from the business community, labor, law enforcement, faith communities, came together to pass a common sense immigration bill. But for more than a year, Republicans in the House of Representatives have refused to allow an up or down vote on that Senate bill or any legislation to fix our broken immigration system. And that's why today I'm beginning a new effort to fix as much of our immigration system as I can on my own, without Congress.
That promise was delivered by President Obama on June 30th, more than 2 months ago, namely that he would take unilateral executive action on immigration issues, i.e., without Congress. Those actions were expected to include easing up on deportations of illegal immigrants and issuing work permits for possibly millions of these illegal immigrants and producing more visas for people who want to work in the United States. But now President Obama is delaying any action until after the midterm elections, 8 weeks from this upcoming Tuesday. Why? One reason, according to the president, the surge of unaccompanied minors who cross the U.S.-Mexico border in waves, most of them originating from Central American countries, with more than 66,000 children apprehended by border agents since October 2013 and still in limbo.
And you know, the truth of the matter is that the politics did shift midsummer because of that problem. I want to spend some time, even as we're getting all our ducks in a row for the executive action, I also want to make sure that the public understands why we're doing this, why it's the right thing for the American people, why it's the right thing for the American economy.
Question, why has President Obama changed his mind? Tell on a clip.
Well, because that surge of Central American kids left the impression that the border was porous and wasn't secure, when actually they were turning themselves in with their teddy bears to the border guards. Actually, the border is quite secure. But you can't argue that politically, and in 6 of the 7 most competitive Senate races, they're under 10% Hispanic population, and those endangered Democrats were basically begged the president not to go ahead with this. And also, I think he feels, probably correctly, that if he made a move on his own, that he could then, you know, poison any chances for getting legislation out of the Congress while he's president. I think he will act before the end of the year and after the election. So this is not over by any means.
Did he tell you that?
John,
He's telling the country that.
there's no question
Not
that
me personally.
it's the peril of the red state Democrats that really caused him to put this. He's going to get a tremendous boost from the Hispanic community if he does it, but he looked at what's going to happen in Louisiana, Arkansas, Alaska, and he said, I can't do it now. But I'll tell you, he's going to have a hellish firestorm in his hands if he, in December, which my guess would be he would be likely to do, he grants an executive amnesty. When George Bush took all of that trouble to go to the Congress of the United States to fight a great battle, saying, in effect, Congress and the President decide this together. He does that unilaterally, and I think he's going to permanently help his party and damage it.
Tom Rogan?
I'm with Pat. I think it's absolutely about the midterm elections and the president. You know, it's just a shame that the president really is so decided by opinion polling data when he makes speeches and policies. I mean, even in the ISIS speech, he was mentioning businesses. There's a real confusion here about leadership, and that, for me, is the crux of the issue. But he's seen the opinion polling data shifting since the crisis with the border children, and he's following that polling data.
What do you think, Matt? What are this president's ideas on immigration?
Look, I think he is doing it almost entirely from a political perspective. I mean, whatever he does on this kind of an issue is not based on any great moral principle.
If you were giving him advice, what would you tell him to do on immigration?
I would tell him to hold off for a while, because otherwise you're going to create a real conflict within the United States public. And
Why? How?
Why? Because there are a lot of people who feel this is not an appropriate thing for a president to do unilaterally.
What's the international play out of this situation?
What do you mean by the international play out?
I mean, the international play out is that Obama is not moving on immigration, and the country's not moving. It's been going on for years.
Yes, exactly right.
How many years? 6 years? How many years?
Where did he get the authority to move?
The Senate
There is a reason here for doing this.
John, if he hadn't moved, if nobody's moved.
The Senate passed a bill over a year ago with 78 votes, bipartisan.
Why don't you pass it in the House?
Because your Tea Party
Okay,
Republicans
that means
won't
it
allow
doesn't become law.
Predictions, Pat.
John, the Iranian negotiations on nuclear weapons are going to fail. I think in November you're going to have people demanding war on Iran.
Hillary Clinton's first visit to Iowa with her husband Bill does not suggest that's her campaign strategy to do it in tandem. They're going to honor retiring Senator Tom Harkin.
Wonderful. Wonderful senator.
Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, who's the leader of ISIS, will not be the leader of ISIS when President Obama leaves office.
What?
The weakness of the Asian economies is going to once again put another layer of pressure on the American recovery.
Mitt Romney will seek the 2016 presidential nomination. Bye-bye.